When I first envisioned this game, it was just one character. You could swap things within the world, and so the point of that was how many different objects can I have in different scenarios that would actually be meaningful. So a couple things that kind of popped up as being meaningful emergent interactions from that original prototype were I could pick up objects, I could have them on my back, and then if I carried around a pot, it could act like a shield. If I carried around a bullet, I could walk up to an enemy and hit it on my back. If I had a plant that shoots bullets, I could swap those bullets into my own bullets, or I could swap them into gems and have infinite gems or infinite keys. They became like generators. This is all kind of detailed in the first video that I made about this project, which was for GMT Game Jam 2 years ago. And for a while now, I've had a few interesting ideas about characters that I could implement into the system that would sort of flesh it out in interesting ways. So, like with the last devlog where I changed the robot player character to the sort of new mode where he has an object equipped on the robot's arm, and then whenever you shoot, it duplicates that object. I wanted to make a character that equips objects like the enemies in the game. So I can carry around a torch and I can strike things with that torch and it will do fire damage and it'll have certain interesting effects. And so I got to work making that new character. Modeled him up. His name is Kite, and he's sort of the knight-esque character. I'm working on another character that's an archer character. She's still in the works, but hopefully should be done by the next kind of demo I run. And ideally, that'll be the core 3 main playable characters at the start of the game. I gave this character some pretty cool animations in my opinion. You'll be the judge of that. I had to do a few extra things to implement this properly, sort of rebalancing of what's already there. So for example, the cooldown of every object is not only how fast you can shoot it, but also how fast you can attack with it. Here's an example. The cobwebs don't deal a lot of damage, but they do slow down the enemies, and so I kind of just want the player to be able to shoot and like scatter them around willy-nilly. The equipping character can then use that super fast cooldown to attack super fast with cobwebs, which kind of makes sense because they're like light, so it would be like easy to swing them around. But that makes way for synergies with things that have you attacking very often, or on attack do this. So I've kind of adjusted a lot of the upgrades and stuff to work with this new synergy that I want the player to be able to explore. Another thing with this melee character, they have one more health because they're in close range to the enemies. They also have a dodge roll that makes them invincible. There's a slight delay between being able to use it. The dodge roll does not scale with cooldown because I think it would be a bit busted, but the speed does allow you to roll further. So along with reworking that equipping functionality, make sure everything's balanced and interesting and everything has like unique effects, I went through and made the same true for picking up objects. So if you can pick up an object, some have unique effects. Like for example, the rocket increases your speed a lot, but it's dangerous to have on your back because it could explode. I'm going to make it so that there are some objects that increase their damage per your move speed, for example, so you can kind of pair those things and have synergies that you discover. So this kind of is in theme with the whole swapping mechanic. I want any object to be anywhere and have some purpose, or at least some specific purpose that's alternative to its first purpose. The point of that is, well, another area where that's interesting, switches and buttons. So I had made these to make trap rooms and things like that. Quick aside, I also added secret rooms, so there's secret hallways and things like that. So if you find them, it could be beneficial. Aside over, the buttons or switches, they can trigger objects. So I needed a way to make this UI for objects triggerable in-game. So this was kind of cool. I'll probably have a character based around this. If I spawn a button or a switch, I can wire it up to an object, and certain objects have different features. So like a campfire is a single-use heal for 2. If I have a switch, I can toggle it on and off, healing infinitely at that location. That's pretty cool. Eventually, if I had swap campfire and switch, I could have infinite heals. If I had swap health potion and I could emit spikes on the robot, I could swap those spikes into health potions and have infinite heal. So the whole game is going to ideally be balanced around these absurd scenarios where the player has access to infinite of everything. It's quite a difficult thing to balance and sort of make the web of objects connect, but I think I'm doing a decent job, and the next time I run a small beta test, you guys can be the judge of that as well. So I've got a new character, I've got some cool interactions with new effects, I've got new triggering system, and secret rooms. Another thing I've changed in the game is the logging station and the modem. You go to the logging station and the modem, they're spawned throughout the level. I gave it a slow charge up time, so you kind of have to stick around and just exist in an area, maybe enemies come to fight you, etc. But it gives the player some reason to kind of just like look around the level. It prints out the CD, you take it to the modem, you get your new swap ability, and it logs the anomaly. That's kind of the core loop. The anomaly will do certain things where it'll make some enemies stronger. It might even enhance your own strategy, like if you're using a rock as an equipped weapon and rocks gain double damage or something like that, you just got an advantage, right? One of the notes I got from the beta test was there's just a lot of visual clutter, and so I've tried to clean that up with the UI changes to the swap menu and the choose menu. Additionally, tried to improve all the UI for just things in general, make them cohesive and simple. I've also added this option for the entire game to be verbose or not. So this hides the description on the swap menu. It hides this little text when you're hovering over an object. It hides the interact or full pickup or equip text and replaces them with icons. So I think that's a pretty decent way of doing it. I think, you know, as you start the game, you'll want verbose on so you can kind of read about each object. You can kind of get a sense for, oh, that's a wall, even though it looks a little different, it still just counts as a wall. And then as you play the game, you'll feel more comfortable knowing what each object does and how it works, and so you can switch that off and have a little bit less clutter. In terms of additional UI, I've made an end run screen. I've also added a separate little object that you can go to and read about the objects you collect throughout the game. So if you get a swap ability or attain an artifact, you can read about it in this literature menu, and you can filter by anomaly type. So if it's like, you know, I want to see all the bosses I've seen, or I want to see I can see those and then read about them, and then those are going to be the same groups that correlate to anomalies in the game. Besides the literature, I've added a difficulty pillar, and this changes the difficulty mode of the game. So this gives an easier experience, which means less anomalies and weaker enemies generally. There's normal, which is kind of the normal mode I'm balancing for, and then the hardest difficulty, which is an anomaly every floor instead of every other floor, and bosses gain those anomalies. So you're going up against these sort of titan enemies that are very hard to defeat and have a lot of advantages that they're just kind of unpredictable and can be overwhelming. So I think that's pretty cool. I've also added seeding support. So this was already in the game. You could seed any map. Any map had a seed already, but I just added the ability to input a seed, read from like a text seed, and create the hashed seed for the game. You can copy and share that seed and you'll get the same experience. For a long time, I've been dealing with the same pool of about 25 or 30 artifacts. I've gone ahead and added 10 more, so I'll talk about 4 that are quite interesting to me. Arc, which is a chance to deal damage taken to nearby objects. So when you get hit, you can deal that damage to objects. So if you have a shield, it'll take any amount of damage one time. If it's paired with an upgrade like Straw Hat, where explosions deal 999 damage to you, you can hit yourself with a bomb as long as you have a shield, and you can arc to one-shot the boss. I think that's kind of a funny interaction. Garden, which doubles your healing strength. I mostly just brought this one up because I thought the particle effect that I made for it looks quite cool. The other 2 are Crystal Ball, so this is 300% additional base magic damage, but emitted and swapped objects gain a random spin. So this is really good if you can get an object in a picked up state where it's not moving, or you're emitting a ton of objects and it doesn't matter where they go, you're just going to hit something. You're doing a ton of magic damage, but it's kind of this chaos. The 4th one is Shell, so objects in your pickup slot deal 500% damage, so this is kind of cool. And these numbers are subject to change, but there was always this kind of thing where, oh, I can pick up an object, hold it on my back, and then I can run into something and it'll deal damage. So with a spike, it's just 1 damage. Spike's gone. It's kind of underwhelming. So Shell is like, you know, maxing that strategy out in some way. I think that's quite funny. There's actually one more interesting one, which is the sack. So this is an extra pickup slot, and it pairs well with Shell because now I can have 2 objects that deal a ton of damage. This is kind of the misc quick rapid fire round section where I've added a bunch of stuff. I've added a bunch of potions to the game, so rejuvenation, which is more health, more move speed, lower cooldown, more damage. The damage one is pretty cool because it's this little dagger that's a potion, and when you pick it up, it will actually apply that status effect to whatever you attack with it. So it gives other things double damage, but it deals blood damage, which is pretty good because it ignores armor, and it does a fair amount of damage. So there's some trade-offs there and some interesting things to discover. There's also status effects like a freeze status effect, and I've gotten to make all the art for these little status effects, and that's pretty fun. Like the freeze status effect has pixel art of an ice sculpture of a horse. So thanks for bearing with me while I build this game full of nonsense. I've also added a treasure wall. When you destroy the treasure wall, it'll drop a chest for the area, and that chest will be full of area-specific goodies to improve your run. I've added some visual quality things, so when an object drops something, it has this little ball, and then it makes a noise, and then a star pops out, and that helps you notice, oh, that was a special drop. There's also things like trail instance for when you're healing using the vamp mask. I've added a couple objects. Anywho, I've been working on this game. I've been kind of cooking on it as of late. It feels like it's being fleshed out much more. I'm actually creating content. I'm actually creating new upgrades. I'm actually creating new objects. I'm actually creating new characters. And over the past 2 months, I feel like the depth and the quality of the game has sort of improved greatly. So thanks for sticking with me. It's at this point where I get on my knees, and if the game is interesting to you at all, you can throw me a wish list. You can also check out my game Bunny Hill on Steam if you're looking for something fun to play with your friends. And all I can say is that I hope to deliver on the vision that I have in my head. In my head, this game seems pretty fun, but when it actually hits the metal, we will see about that. So thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you.